Okay, hello, my friends. It is Wednesday, October 9th, 2024, and here is your Ukraine war news for today. This is the Daily Brief. There's 1,150 Russians off the battlefield, 4 tanks, 11 armored fighting vehicles, 19 artillery systems, 55 vehicles, and fuel tanks. So, I don't know how much that means to you, but to me, that means the fighting has ticked down a little bit over the last 24 hours, and you can see that in both the numbers here and the overall casualty rate. The average for the last month, which was the highest month of the war, was about 12 something. And so at just 1150 is a little bit lower. Probably doesn't mean a lot if you're on the front lines and you're actually the guy fighting, but just to get a feel for what's going on. And your perpetuous list is about 3 to 1 of Russian losses to Ukrainian losses. That's always good to see. Anything more than 3 to 1, I find comforting. Okay, overnight, Russia unleashed drone strikes on residential buildings in the Odessa region, leaving at least 5 civilian victims. Rescue teams are continuing their efforts at this time. Now, I don't want you to think that they only do this because they're also fighting on the front lines, but overnight, what they do night over night is target civilian buildings in what seems like an effort to wear down the population. Russian poured drones and ballistic missiles onto the people of Odessa. North Korean missiles are becoming a huge problem with Ukraine's allies. Hold on, let me show you this. Okay, see that boom? Like, that's the kind of thing that you're seeing here. And I just put the still picture rather than show you the whole thing. I'm going to pause that. North Korean missiles are becoming a huge problem with Ukraine's allies, still forbidding Ukraine from striking Russia's launchers and airfields. That's right. North Korea is a better friend to Russia than the West is seeming to be to Ukraine at this point. And that's because their business model has shifted. Okay, Kherson is a living nightmare. I just went to a city. Now, this is Kylen. It's pronounced Kylen. I think because of the clover, he's Irish. And he's produced a video, a documentary about the drone attacks in Kherson. I just went to a city in Ukraine where Russians have been killing civilians with POV drones consistently, and it's getting, or constantly, and it's getting worse. What I saw was shocking. The locals told me the only thing protecting them is the leaves on the trees, and now the leaves are falling and there's no protection and no plan. It's an unprecedented evil I didn't think humans were even possible of. Everyone in that city looks up in the sky constantly because they're being hunted from above. This is the future of warfare, and it should terrify the world. So he says, here's my full documentary. It's about 35, 36 minutes. I'm going to watch it. If it proves like useful, I'll certainly mention it. Now, Andrew Perpetua also added, I'm glad people are finally paying attention to what's going on in Kherson. But I need you to know this is not only happening in Kherson. It's happening all over. It's not limited to one place or one unit. This is the entirety of the Russian military doing this, attacking civilians with drones. I talked about this yesterday independently before I saw this morning about the drone documentary. I talked about it yesterday, a woman talking about how, like, look, we can't go up. We have to keep looking around and running from them. And yeah, that's where we are. Okay. Yeah, a couple days ago, there was this attack on the oil depot in Fedosia. Images taken on the afternoon of October 8th were published by Radio Liberty journalists. It is the 9th. Yesterday was the 8th, and that's a day after, and the fuel tanks are still burning. And here's what it looked like before, and here's what it looks like after. So that was a good strike on one of the largest oil depots in that region. Okay. When I went to sleep last night, I saw this Krasnodar Krai in Rostov region. Russia are under Ukrainian drone attacks. I'm like, okay, well, let's see what the news is in the morning. And it turns out Unmanned Systems Forces branch of the Ukrainian army confirmed that they successfully struck a Russian missile and artillery arsenal in Bryansk. Okay, so the 67th GRAU arsenal stores and modernizes artillery and missile weapons, including Iranian ones. Okay, so you're going to hear lots about Iranian weapons and North Korean weapons moving forward because this is how Russia is backfilling what they can't produce on their own. Okay, additional footage of this, and just look at it in distance, right? Hundreds of secondary explosions have been reported in the key Russian ammunition dump, reportedly housing North Korean munitions. Look at that. The sky's not supposed to look red like that. A warehouse with ammunition was attacked in Bryansk region of the Russian Federation. The ammunition, including ammunition from the DPRK, also KABs, were stored there. Massive catch of North Korean munitions. Okay, same stuff, all the same story. Again, look at the skyline here. This is pretty remarkable. And the commentary, a state of emergency has been introduced in this district of Bryansk. At the same time, they do not mention the attack by Ukrainian drones. Like, okay, something's on fire, but it couldn't have been Ukraine that did it. Okay, North Korea is absolutely flooding munitions into Ukraine. Meanwhile, Ukraine's allies seek to de-escalate. Again, North Korea's new business model is supporting Russia in its war efforts. And that's really like Kim is going to be making money hand over fist with this. Okay, German Major General Christian Freudling, I hope I pronounced that right, reports the following. First, Ukraine's increased production and import of artillery shells reduced Russia's superiority in that field from 8-1 to 3-1. So you're still outgunned 3-1, but outgunned 3-1 is very different than 8-1. Ukraine's drone production is impressive. Until this year's end, 1.5 million will be produced. Now, they were predicting 1 million. Now they're up to 1.5 million for this year, and they're predicting 4 million being produced next year. Okay. Recruiting has improved significantly. Since early this year, they've increased by a 5-digit number. That's good. They need to do that. The way that Ukraine loses, it's either a loss of will or a loss of manpower. And I don't think the loss of will is coming, but it all depends on how many soldiers they can mobilize. Okay, Jason J. Smart talks about the Russian side of the equation. Given the likely decline in the relative advantage at the front line, Russia's potential negotiating position actually isn't all that strong. And while Russia has the resources to sustain the war in the near term, looking just a bit beyond that, you see a fairly problematic picture in the terms of the rate of inflation in Russia's overheating economy, and I've talked about that before, the deficit of skilled labor, and that's also crippling them because they're taking people from like warehouses and industry and arms manufacturing and regular manufacturing and pulling them into the military, because the state is pulling workers into the defense industry and contracting them to fight in the war. And it's not just the defense industry. All the other industry is being pulled away to the defense industry and then pulled away from there to the war. The steady depletion of Russia's liquid reserves and the fact that much of the budget is tied to the current oil price, and to the degree that they can tax oil and gas, they are going to drive the economy, the Russian economy, even further down. Okay. Ukraine is moving to lift its wartime ban on drone exports to boost production and match Russia's capabilities. Drone companies aim to sell abroad, generating up to $20 billion in revenue to fund more military supplies. So I have mixed feelings about this. This was in the Financial Times. I have mixed feelings about this because I'm thinking, okay, first, do they need the drones? If they need the drones primarily, then that's a bad idea. But if they have excess, then that's not necessarily a bad idea if they can trade excess for money and then use that money for other manufacturing capabilities. But we don't want those drones going into Russian hands, and they could be sold to Germany and Germany to Kazakhstan and Kazakhstan to Russia, and that would be all bad. So they have to be careful about this, but it's not necessarily bad in and of itself. Okay, now I have to show you the warts and all, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And here's some of the ugly. Klemensky City Council deputy found with over $1.5 million in undeclared income. So somebody's on the take for something. And this is just amplifying the message. See, those Ukrainians are corrupt. Russia is far more corrupt, but that's not, you never hear that. See, the Russians are corrupt. You never hear that line. Law enforcement officials found $1,491,000 US dollars, 30,000 euros, and 500,000 hryvnias during a search of the official's workplace and in bank lockers. These funds were not listed in her declaration. She was detained under suspicion of illegal enrichment. Okay, but this is becoming a story rather than just like, yeah, they're all crooks. and that's a positive sign, even though it's a terrible thing that's happening. Okay, you also see this, another honeypot spilled, Ukraine's arrest of an informant recruited through a dating site. So what happened? The SBU Wednesday press release said the 23-year-old suspect, male, from Pokrovsk was recruited when the young man was looking for a partner on dating sites, where a Russian agent tasked him with relaying intelligence about Ukrainian positions and coordinating airstrikes. That's absolutely horrible. In Pokrovsk, where Russia is really trying to get, like, if Russia can take Pokrovsk, that's a big victory for them this year. It's not strategic in the sense that they lose, but it's significant and tactical and will push the Ukrainian army back. And he's doing that for a date. The representative of the Russian Special Service approached this suspect and offered to get to know him better. Subsequently, she sent the young man to go around the area in Pokrovsk region where he secretly recorded the positions of defense forces. Uh, the individual also reported to the occupiers about consequences of enemy airstrikes in the city. The female then reportedly ordered the suspect to do the same thing in Ukraine's Sumy region, where he rented an apartment to set up an online broadcast using a man's powered smartphone to continuously monitor the result of Russian airstrikes. So there are some people that report to Russia because they are Russian, and then there's guys like this. This was a honey trap. Okay. Cabinet ministers have allowed additional euro 86 million euros to be allocated for the construction of protective systems around the energy facilities in the wake of continued Russian missile and drone strikes. Absolutely great idea. Double that. Protect those energy facilities as best you can. Russia, now this I thought was interesting and ought to be addressed. Kyiv Post is putting this out that Russia may be preparing for strikes on the Ukrainian nuclear infrastructure, according to Energoatom. I don't know how to pronounce that. The night of October 6th and 7th, UAV was spotted at a distance of less than 10 kilometers from the South Ukrainian nuclear power plant. Now, I don't think anything's going to come of that. Just because there was a drone that's that close, there's drones all over. But I think that Russia is smart enough not to do this, and they know, like, China has told them in no uncertain terms. India has told them under no uncertain terms, don't do this kind of thing. So they will lose all their support with their would-be allies, with the possible exception of North Korea and Iran. But China and India certainly will push back against that. Don't do this. Turkey will be livid if that kind of thing happens. Okay. A fake is circulating online claiming President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, allegedly purchased Hitler's parade car for $15 million. This primary source is a fake in an article at Seattle Tribune website, which was created only 5 days ago. The author of the article is not identified. The fake quickly spread on the internet, particularly on social network X, formerly Twitter. So why would they do this kind of thing? Well, again, they're trying to discredit President Zelensky and his family, make them look, see, they're just crooks, they're Nazis, they're this, they're right, and that's what they're doing. So be careful about what you spread on social media. Okay, last little bit. Darth Putin, Ukraine continues to endanger civilians by defending itself. It should surrender and let Russia protect them, like in Bucha. Okay. All right. Now, there were other stories that were international stories that I would have covered, but I didn't cover. We're already at almost 14 minutes at this point. So I'm going to do a second little video about just international stories. I'll keep it real short, like 3-4 minutes, something like that. And if you're interested in that, look for the next video just about what's going on around the world. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.